Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm down at Hendrick BMW Northlake and we're going to check out their 2023 BMW X2 xDrive28i. So huge shout out to them for providing this SUV for me today. Make sure you guys check out their website. All that info is down in the description. The X2 that you see behind me is finished off in Alpine White with an MSRP just over $46,000. To start off today's review, let's look at what powers this X2. Underneath the hood is a 2-liter 4-cylinder twin-power turbocharged engine paired to the 8-speed Steptronic automatic transmission. It pumps out 228 horsepower around 5,000 RPM and 258 pound-feet of torque as low as 1,400 RPM. That power is sent through the xDrive all-wheel drive system. This weighs in right around 3,600 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in just over 6 seconds, up to its top speed of 130 miles an hour. And it has a fuel capacity of 16.1 gallons. You'll expect the fuel economy to be 24 miles per gallon in the city and 31 out on the highway. This has a wheelbase of 105.1 inches. Its overall length is 172.2. It has a width of 71.8, a height of 60.1, and its ground clearance measures in at 7.2 inches. And as we move on to the exterior styling now for the all-new 2023 BMW X2, let's start off with the kidney design for the grille. On this model, it's finished off in gloss black, which is a really nice accent against this Alpine White, and there are plenty of cutouts to provide a lot of cooling to that engine. Really cool vertical design for that pattern as well. This has forward-facing parking sensors nicely incorporated in the middle section of the bumper, and it even has LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals with a really nice design for the housing. I like the bodywork that goes across it all the way back to the grille, and as you can tell, the DRLs have a nice C-shaped design to them underneath the headlights and the high beams with the turn signal in the outer corner. And then in the lower section of the bumper, there's a lot more cutouts. Even on both corners, there are functional air inlets to provide even better aerodynamics, more trim and mesh with plenty of cutouts in that lower section, and even air inlets on both sides of the lower trim. As you can tell, that is finished off in a brushed gray, just to give it a little bit more of a contrast. And there's really nice lines coming down the hood just to match nicely. And as we move on to the side, this has a set of 19-inch wheels. They're 8 inches wide with a nice two-tone design and a multi-spoke pattern. This also has body-colored side mirrors with the integrated turn signal. The base of them is finished off in gloss black, which matches the surround for the windows, as well as the roof racks. This even has a sunroof as well. And really nice lines running down the side. There's one just at the height of the door handles, as well as in the lower section. The fender flares have a great design to them too. And then last up in the rear, this has a body colored spoiler with the integrated third brake light just in the middle. There's gloss black trim on both sides just to tie in nicely with that rear glass, as well as having the wiper blade in the lower section. The BMW badge is also the release for the power trunk, which we'll show here soon. This even has LED taillights, really nice design for those housings. It has a backup camera along with the parking sensors. There's more of that gray trim in the lower diffuser just to tie in nicely with the front end, as well as having the dual exhaust on both sides. So with the exterior wrapped up, let's move on to that cargo space. So you can use the button on the key fob, but I want to show the BMW badge. If I just push on the upper section, it will automatically open it up. Really cool to see that incorporated into the badge itself. And making your way into the cargo area, there's actually a good bit of space for this smaller size SUV. There's a net over on the passenger side, as well as a 12-volt, all of the dome lights, and some tie downs so you can safely secure items. If I lift up the floor, this has an ample amount of room. Look at how deep this compartment is. You can place a lot of items, and then you can actually remove this cover and fold all of the seats down, and that provides this vehicle with a lot more usable interior storage. So for the size, it makes it very practical if this is your only vehicle. And with the power liftgate, you can close and lock the vehicle. The one on the left side will just close it. And so now let's make our way to these back seats. And with the rear door opened, we can take a look at this magma red leather interior, which is a perfect color combo against the Alpine White. Over on the door panel, there's trim pieces like the piano black, as well as some brush trim on the release handle, the window control, as well as the grab handle. This even has a 7-speaker audio sound system and a good amount of storage space down in the lower section of the door. And at 5'10", it's time to work my way into these back seats. I do have the front seat set at my height, and for being a smaller size SUV, I have plenty of room for my feet and my legs, and about an inch or so above my head. Even with the rake for the rear end of this vehicle, it still provides you with an ample amount of headroom, which is great to see. And right in the middle, if I pull on this tab, it will reveal the armrest as well as 2 cup holders if you need to use those. And like I showed earlier, these seats have a 40-20-40 split. If I pull on this tab, we can fold down just the middle seat if you have some longer items that you'd like to pass through. And then I do have both of these all the way up. You can recline these seats just slightly, just to give you a little bit more comfort, so that way you're not sitting straight up, which is great to see. And then there's 2 air vents down below, along with 2 USB-Cs and some storage pockets behind both front seats, just to give you a little bit more interior storage. And then moving on to the front seats now, the door panel is just like the rear. However, there's the addition of lock and unlock, as well as the rest of the window controls, the side mirror adjustments, even a release for the rear liftgate, and plenty of storage down in that lower section. There's even an M badge down on the door sill. And then moving on to these seats, really nice design for the front seats. They have perforated leather running down the middle. All of these seating adjustments are down on the side, as well as the memory seating adjustments. And the front section is even adjustable just by pulling on that tab if you want a little bit more comfort. And this has a low door sill, so it's easy to enter and exit the front, just like the rear. Door opens pretty wide as well. And then moving on to the steering wheel, it's solid black with black stitching running along the inside. There's some brushed aluminum accents, as well as the M badge down below. On the right side is Bluetooth and voice commands, along with volume and tuning for the radio. Cruise control is on this left side. This even has steering wheel mounted paddle shifters. But let's fire up this 2023 BMW X2. That button is over on the right side, and with my foot on the brake, we can bring this to life. And looking at this gauge cluster, on the left side is the miles per hour and the fuel gauge. On the right side is the tach, as well as the efficient dynamics. You can also tell what gear the vehicle is in as well. The clock is down below, and right in the middle is a small LCD screen where you can go through information using this top button on the turn signal stalk. So currently it's showing the outside temperature as well as your average miles per gallon. You can look at your miles per hour as well. Pull up the date, look at some other vitals like engine temperature, your range until empty, and a few other vitals with the odometer just underneath that. And it even has a pretty large cover just above it, so it will hide it from the sun. You won't have any glare on that gauge cluster. Great to see that. Over on the left side, if I open this up, there's a pretty good sized compartment where you can place some smaller items if you need to. All the headlight adjustments as well as the dimmer switch for the gauges are just above that. More of that brush trim and 1 air vent. And then as we move on to the center, this is a touchscreen system that has quite a lot of information to go through. We're currently on the home screen where you can look at icons from radio and music, along with communication. You have navigation, your connected drive, my vehicle, and notifications. So in order to go through all that information not using the touchscreen, those controls are located down below where there's shortcuts to map and navigation, along with menu, media and phone, the rotary dial, and a few controls just underneath that. So as you just saw with menu, you can even bring it up in this screen here where it can monitor all that information at once, and then click on what information you'd like to go through, pull it up in full screen there. There's a lot of different settings that you can configure in my vehicle, just depending on how you'd like to set this up. And if I go back, we can scroll over to connected drive, go through all this information here. So it doesn't have a lot of information, but it has everything that you need, including navigation, as I mentioned, so you can look at the map and see that in full screen. Gives you really good graphics for all of that, of course. So it's nice to have all of that front and center. There's more of the piano black just underneath that with 2 air vents in the middle. There's even a shortcut to the intelligent safety. So for this X2, this has front collision, pedestrian warning, the lane departure. You can configure all of that. Just underneath that is all of the presets, as well as power and volume for the radio. Tuning is on the right side. And then underneath that is all the climate controls, nicely laid out. This does have a dual zone system for your driver and your passenger. Fan speed is right in the middle, and this even has a small LCD screen so you can monitor all of that information, including the temperature, fan speed, as I just mentioned. You can shut that off, control where you'd like the air to go, and this even has heated seats for your front seat passenger. So it's nice to see that. Recirc and a few other controls are there as well. And moving on to the lower section, you can see this red leather surrounding the entire center. Great to see that. A little bit of storage space in front of 2 cup holders, as well as having a 12 volt and a USB. And then looking at the shifter now, with my foot on the brake, the release is on the left side. If I push it all the way forwards, that is for reverse, where you'll see the rear view camera on the right side, as well as the sensors on the left side, and a few other settings are over on that left side if you need to adjust them. We can go back into drive, pop it over into the manual setting, so that allows you to shift using the shifter or those steering wheel mounted paddle shifters as I showed earlier. Park is on the top, and then on the left side is traction control, as well as a few different driving modes. So just by pushing on this toggle, we can go between Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. The gauge cluster will change slightly over on that right side as well, just depending on the driving mode. The parking sensors are just behind that, so you can turn those on and off, as well as this having a downhill assist control. The electronic parking brake is just behind that. And then moving our way to the center armrest, if I open this up, there's a lot of space for any items that you'd like to place there. And if I lift up the entire console, there's even more storage with a USB-C, so you can charge electronics and store whatever items underneath, which is great to see that. And the glove box has an ample amount of room for all of that information. We'll take one last look at these Magma red leather seats. Great interior for this spec. And like I mentioned earlier, the full sunroof, you can see that open. The adjustments for the sunshade and the sunroof are up in the top, as well as the dome lights on both sides, and even some call buttons as well. So now getting this 2023 BMW X2 out on the road. This is a really cool smaller size SUV from BMW, and it's actually the smallest SUV that they make. It's a little bit smaller than the X1, even though the BMW lineup starts with X1 all the way up to the big boy, which is the X7. The X2 is meant to be more of a sporty SUV. That's why it's a little bit smaller. However, with that being said, still retains a lot of interior room, and there's even a little bit more legroom from what I've been told than the X1 for your backseat passengers. So while we have a smaller, more sporty type vehicle, it's really great to see how well BMW has packaged this, especially with that amount of room underneath the floor for the rear cargo. So you can definitely use this as a daily driver, put in a lot of items for the size if you don't need or want a larger SUV. I have to talk about the color combo again because this is a really nice spec. Exterior white and this almost lava orange. Even though it's magma red, it looks slightly orange in person. Camera's going to throw that off slightly, of course, but it's a great combo with this exterior. Really makes this more of a luxury type vehicle, even though it's kind of on that base side from BMW. It's really nice. There's a lot of materials on the inside for not being fully loaded. All of the leather, obviously the seats, all of the gloss black and everything, the brushed aluminum, really gives it a nice feel, especially for this money. Under $50,000, you're getting a really nice vehicle for that money. But I'm gonna pop it over into sport mode, put it into the manual setting. Now we can use these paddles. Mild acceleration for a new vehicle, but it gets up and moves. It's not a crazy fast vehicle. You can't even hear it. The exhaust wasn't even that loud, but the paddles are super responsive for that Steptronic automatic. So you could definitely use them. I mean, it's not slow. It's impressive to see. It's not a heavy vehicle either. So I would expect it to be peppy, get up to speed, which is nice. And now we can check the handling of it. We have a sharp right coming up, so we can downshift the moment I hit those. And for that normal turn, it handled it well. Very impressive. Now we do have the M Sport package on this, so it does still have a standard suspension. It doesn't have an upgraded suspension, but the M Sport package basically gives you the wheels. We have the steering wheel, some of the exterior and interior trim pieces as well. So with the standard suspension, it's still handling these well. And that's what I love about BMW, is the fact that this is a driver's car. Whether you want the performance or you don't necessarily care about extra performance, the X2 is a great option for that, because it doesn't give you all of what you don't want, yet it still handles kind of like some of the other vehicles. Not exactly compared to some of the M cars, of course, but it definitely still handles well for back road driving, normal driving like this. And it's also very comfortable and quiet. With that standard suspension too, it's been absorbing all the bumps I've been throwing at it today very nicely. There's no traffic noise. I have a large truck in front of me right now, and I really can't hear it. So this is a great option. All of the tech is nice too. It's not overboard. Still have a touchscreen system with all that information and a nice layout for the controls underneath it. And then as we switch over to the POV angle, you can see what it's like to be behind the wheel of this 2023 X2. I currently still have it in sport mode, so we can use these paddles as we have another right turn coming up. And hopefully you can tell on camera just how quiet this vehicle is. Paddles are very responsive. And just cruising at a normal rate of speed for this road, I'm very impressed with how well it's handling. We have good lateral grip on these M seats too, so this is an upgrade, having these leather seats with the support that they offer. So a really nice vehicle to drive. As far as visibility goes, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the pillar over that right shoulder is a little bit bulky, but you can see around it. Over my left shoulder, I can clearly see out of both of those windows. And then the side mirrors obviously will help you with that too. So it's really not all that hard. I can easily see out of that back window, even with the headrest currently up at the moment. So it's a little bit tight. I'm not going to say it's great, but it still is easy to see around. And we're going to give it one last acceleration for today's video in the all-new X2. Just a mild acceleration, about half throttle. We're easily able to get up to speed. So definitely a great option if you're looking for a smaller SUV like this. I think it's reasonably priced as well, especially for the tech that it has to offer, as well as some of the options that are on this model. But that's gonna wrap it up for this all-new 2023 BMW X2 xDrive28i. Once again, huge shout out to Hendrick BMW Northlake for providing this vehicle for me today. Make sure you check out their website. All that info is down in the description. And if you enjoyed today's review, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. And I will see you all in the next video.